It is the morning after episode 2. We are back. We made it. The show didn't get canceled after the first week, which wouldn't happen anyways because I run the show and I wasn't going to cancel us. It is the morning after week 6 in the NFL. It is 2 mornings after James Franklin getting fired. I guess not unexpectedly after the disaster that took place over the weekend against Northwestern. I guess it was back to back disasters. We have a lot to get to on the show today. We will obviously start with my alma mater making one of the most shocking moves in the college football season so far. It's still young. I still think there will be more carnage on the coaching carousel to come. We will react to everything we saw week 6 in the NFL. We will predict, spin forward, what we might see in the NFL going forward. And of course, college football predictions. Now that we're more than halfway through the year for a lot of these teams, there are some teams that are bowl eligible already. There are a lot of undefeated teams. But I am not surprised with some of the teams that are kind of ascending to the top and maybe some of the teams that are sinking like stones. And then we'll wrap up the show as we always do, right? We've only done it 2 weeks, but as we always do, with Rise and Wine, I will vent about a topic in sports that it's always one of my teams. I'm looking forward to one of the weeks when it's not one of my teams that I'm venting about because let's be honest, if you're a Penn State and a New York Jets fan, hand raised, it's been a rough couple of weeks for your teams. And then I will close the show on a positive note because we like to be positive here on the show. Just feel the vibes, right? Really digging the music that I found here for the music bed. Very fitting vibes, morning vibes. I got my coffee. Um, Cheers to you guys. Of course, Morning Glory will be the last segment we do on the show as we pay respect, pay homage to a great performance of the weekend and maybe an actionable element. I don't know. Um, this one is just more tip of the cap, and maybe next year it'll be actionable. I don't know if there's a winning wager in today's Morning Glory. Maybe though, I'll be honest. The way the NFL has been this year, there's your tease right there of what Morning Glory is. Maybe it'll be actionable this year. So cheers to you. I'll take my final sip of coffee before we get started here. I think. Let me pod the music down. Of course, I'm running the board. I'm doing all of it here on a beautiful Monday morning, October 13th. Happy October the 13th. It's not Friday the 13th. So I guess all you superstitious people out there can take a chill pill, but it is one of those I think what is it? Triskaidekaphobia? I apologize if that's not correct. But that is the fear of the number 13. I think that's what it's called. But there'll probably be some people out there very superstitious today. All right, before we get started, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. That is the most important part, I think, of this whole experience. Again, if you watched last week's show, you kind of know why I'm doing this. I'm bringing back a format that I feel is a strength of mine, which is absorbing everything we see, reacting to it, trying to spin it forward, being fun, being uh, pugnacious, I guess, with people in the chat if they want to chime in. I do see a couple people watching live, so shout out to you guys. But if you want to continue to support the show, the best way to do that is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am working on some partnerships, some distribution partnerships to get this show out to more people. Until then, it's just YouTube. And of course, whatever I clip and send out on my social medias. So up until that point, the only way you can really get the content is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this show right now, you're probably invested in the YouTube channel in some way. Please click the subscribe button. If you learn anything about football, if you learn anything about sports, if you laugh here on the show today, hit the subscribe button, click all the bells, click all the buttons, follow us on social media. I rebranded my TikTok. So if you were following me on TikTok before at Jared Smith Bets, that's gone. I was never a big TikTok guy anyways. I have like 500 followers. So my TikTok page is now all morning after clips. I created a new Twitter handle and or X handle and a new Instagram handle specifically for this show. I'm gonna keep my obviously my X, and my Instagram personal. My Instagram is a little bit more personal. Anyways, if you follow me on Instagram, it's not as much sports media. It's a little bit more what's happening in my life. If you want more of the behind the scenes look, and if you follow me on X, obviously it's very much sports heavy, sports media, sports reactions. But I created a new X account at Pod Morning After, and the new Instagram account the morning after underscore pod. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, though. That is the most important thing as we try to build this account and figure out a way to continue to grow this channel, because I do think we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to hopefully, again, learn some things. We're going to laugh, and maybe we'll win a few bets in the process. Again, this is not a gambling show. We're not going to go through all the games and be like, this game went over, this game went under. Here's the sharper information. That is not the vibe of this show. That is not my goal with this show. There are plenty of gambling shows out there. I host many of them. If you want that edge on a certain game, that's not what this show is about. This show is getting back to my roots as a sports talk host. People forget, there's a lot of people who follow me. Again, my story is so unique. We'll take a quick story time before we get into James Franklin, which is a whole nother story in itself. People that have followed me for years, since like 2020, when oh wow, we got a few commenters on the show. What's up, guys? Good morning. Good morning, Dank Hank and Vinay Ayala. I don't know if you're real people, but thank you for being in the live chat this morning. That's awesome, man. Story time. There are people out there who follow me that view me as a gambling guy. Oh, that's the gambling guy. Yeah, he bets a lot, and he he's on all these gambling shows, and Sports Grid, PicksWise, VSiN, Fox Sports Radio, BetMGM. People who I had people come up to me when I used to live in New York City, and I worked for FanDuel Sportsbook, and I did the MSG segments. People thought I was the gambling guy, and don't get me wrong, that part of my career has relaunched me into a different level of status when it comes to broadcasting. But I started my career as a play-by-play guy. My first job out of college was an intern at the ESPN radio affiliate in Atlantic City. And then from there, I worked for the Trenton Thunder. Then I worked for FAU calling their basketball games and their baseball games. Then I worked for LaSalle calling their basketball games. Then I worked as a morning reporter in Flint, Michigan. I was a local sports news anchor for local TV for almost as many years as I've done gambling. And then I went into finance for a little while, got married, got divorced, and then from 2019 on is when I got the job at Sports Grid, and that's when the morning after became a thing. And that's when the gambling stuff really started, which has only been about 6 years of my 20-year broadcasting career. So this show is about renovating that and getting back to my roots, because I think that is what really drives my passion. Don't get me wrong, I love to gamble, and we're going to talk a lot of gambling on this show, but that is not the goal of this show. That is not the vibe of this show. This show is to react to what we saw in the world of sports over the weekend. So let's react. Biggest story of the weekend. It wasn't in the NFL, which is rare on an NFL weekend. It took place on Sunday morning, about 12 hours after Penn State lost to Northwestern in embarrassing fashion. I got wind of it, I want to say it was around 10 or 11 a.m. my time. Let me check my Twitter feed, actually. When I tweeted out, James Franklin finally fired. I don't want to say it was shocking, because I think after what took place over the weekend, it was almost like Penn State had no choice. Yeah, it was about 23 hours ago. 20 hours ago, excuse me. So it was about 11 a.m. local time here in Vegas. So just after lunch on the East Coast is when all this went down. And it was Pete Thamel. Credit Pete Thamel. He was the first retweet. He was the first. Wow, that tweet, Pete Thamel's tweet. I'll pull it up here now because I can. See, that's the beauty of this show, is I can I can actually pull up tweets. Look at this. Look how cool that is right there. Let me oh, actually. Oh, whoa. That was trippy. There we go. There you go. Pete Thamel's tweet, 10:57 a.m. local time here in Vegas. 18 million views. Sources. Penn State has fired James Franklin. And there's Funhouse, man. I'll tell you. Some of the reactions to this tweet, for those unaware, Funhouse is a X account that all they do is post Mike Francesa clips. Speaking of sports talk radio, and he posted he replied to Tamel's tweet with a clip of Mike Francesa just absolutely obliterating James Franklin for kicking a field goal, or excuse me, calling timeout before Georgia State kicked a field goal down 56-0. Really fun clip if you want to follow them. They're very entertaining. But there you go. Pete Thamel. Penn State has fired James Franklin. 10:57 a.m. local time here in Vegas. That's when it started. Then obviously all the reactions, all of the this, that, who are they going to hire next, blah, blah, blah. All that started after that. But I think the most important thing to mention here is the buyout, because that was the reason that I didn't think Penn State would go through with this. James Franklin has a $50 million buyout. In fact, on last week's show during Rise and Wine, I said he's not going anywhere because of the buyout. But that was before they lost to Northwestern at home on homecoming as a 21-point favorite. And I think at that point it was obvious that he had not only lost the drive to coach, like he had just looked like a defeated man at that point, but he kind of quit on the team. Like the play calling and just the way that he didn't show any fire on the sidelines. Like that's the one thing I love about college coaches is when you watch the sidelines, some of these coaches are absolute madmen. When you watch the sidelines with these college coaches, they are screaming and going crazy every single play. Even if it's something that doesn't necessarily go against them, they are absolutely going bananas. James Franklin just looked like he's, watching a game, just like hanging out on the field. He didn't show that fight. He didn't show that fire. And I think that's why this took place. I honestly think if Penn State beats Northwestern by a touchdown, barely, right? They get by the skin of their teeth. I think James maybe keeps his job. I think he keeps his job for the rest of the year if they go 6-6 or 7-5 and get bowl eligible and make it to a, I don't know, some random Cheez-It Bowl or something. I think he keeps his job for at least this year. Maybe at the end of the season he gets fired. But I think it was obvious that he had kind of quit on the team and he had lost the locker room. And at that point, Pat Kraft, the AD, has no choice. You have to make the move and you have to just swallow the money. Now, there's two factors at play here that I think are important. One, I do think firing him now is the right move because you get a head start on the hiring process. Now, who's Penn State going to hire? I have no freaking clue. No idea. I am not an insider. I have no, sources inside that athletic department. I am just like you. I'm a fan. I'm an alum. I hope they make the right hire, but I have no idea who they're going to hire. I know who I would hire. He's the guy head coaching Indiana right now, Curt Cignetti. I maybe would consider Lane Kiffin, but again, these are the top guys. I don't know if Penn State's going to shoot that high. I would assume they are. I think the reason that you make the hire now, part number two, I think the reason that you make the fire right now is because you feel like you want to get a head start on this process. I think there are going to be multiple prolific programs firing head coaches over the next month or two. I think Florida's the next one to go. I think Billy Napier is probably going to be gone soon too. So this is a way for you to be a first mover in the space. Now, I know a couple of other programs have fired head coaches. I think Oregon State just fired theirs. I think there's been a couple of other lower tier teams that have fired head coaches, Arkansas, Sam Pittman. But let's be honest, Penn State is an elite job. It is a job that everyone is going to want if you are interested in moving on from your current situation. I don't know if Curt Cignetti is interested in moving on. That's the guy I would hire. I'm hearing a lot of, there's going to be some dark times for Penn State. This is going to be rough. Yeah, it might be a rough year, But with the transfer portal, if you hire the right guy, it might only be a year or two before you're back to national prominence. Again, look at what Kurt Signetti did at Indiana. They went into Eugene the other day and beat Oregon. And they didn't just beat Oregon, they whooped Oregon. Oregon had a pick six and an explosive pass, and they still couldn't keep it within one score of Indiana. They lost by 2 scores. They lost by 10. Indiana won that game handily. Indiana's a legit football team. We'll get to that a little later in the college football playoff predictions. But my point being, Kurt Signetti's a guy that you bring him in and you turn your program around immediately. I think there are other coaches that maybe are more intriguing X's and O's guys. Like, let's be honest, James Franklin, not a great X's and O's coach. I'm sorry. I don't know what he's been doing with this team for the last few years, but they continuously regress under the spotlight. And we thought this year they were set up to succeed. We thought this year was the year that they were going to absolutely cook with the coaching staff they had, with Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator, with the offense that they had, with all the players coming back, and it all just fell apart. Vinay, thanks for the question. He wants to know, why would people like Signetti leave to coach at PSU? Because Penn State's got the resources, because Penn State's got the money, because Penn State is it's a premier job. Nothing against Indiana. What he's done at Indiana is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. But Indiana does not have the resources that Penn State does. It's just a fact. Here's the kicker. Here is, I think, the final conspiracy reason why this happened the way that it did. Because, again, I thought the buyout was a very crucial part of why this wasn't going to happen as quickly as it did. $50 million is a lot of money. And they're probably going to have to pay out Jim Knowles and Colton Nickey and all these other guys that are likely going to be let go at the end of the year, that are all under contract, that are all due buyouts. Penn State just signed a $300 million endorsement deal with Adidas. Penn State's been a Nike school for a long time. Adidas came in and said, we want Penn State. I don't know about all the details behind the scenes, but $300 million is a lot of money. And I would assume that windfall of cash is a reason why Pat Kraft thought they could afford to make the move. It's crazy how a guy like James Franklin is being so bad at his job is going to get paid out like he is. But that is the nature of college sports. That is the nature of these coaches. That is the nature of the buyouts. Weird situation, because part of me is sad that it is ending this way. James Franklin's been the coach of Penn State for a long time. This is not the way you want to go out. And Drew Aller, oh my God. It'd be one thing if Drew was still the quarterback of the team, and for them to kind of limp along with an interim head coach over the next few weeks, make it to a bowl game, and for then Drew to make the next step to the NFL and leave on his terms. But for Drew Aller to also get hurt in this game and now be done for the year, I feel awful for Drew. I don't think he was given a chance to succeed. I think the vibes around the program this year were so bad that he was just right. There's a saying that if you play not to lose, that's worse than playing aggressively and making a mistake. And from everything I hear, Drew is just constantly getting chirped at. Don't make the mistake. Give everyone a chance to succeed. Don't make the critical error. Negative talk, negative talk, negative talk. Instead of, hey, dude, you're a 5-star with a crusher of an arm. You're a big, talented kid. Let it rip. I don't think that was how Drew was being coached. And that's, I think, a big reason why this is happening too. When you have elite talent and you are suppressing it because you don't want to make the big mistake, very conservative approach, to me, that's worse than, hey, bro, you're a stud. Let her rip. We'll worry about the rest later. That's how I would coach Drew, but I just don't think those are the vibes in Happy Valley. And I think it was time for a change. And James Franklin, I wish you the best. Um, it's been a good run, but you are not the guy to take this program to the next level, unfortunately. And the next level is winning a national championship. Period. End of story. Those are the expectations of Penn State. That is what we thought this year was going to be. And when you lose back-to-back games to UCLA and Northwestern, and you show no fight, no fire, and you just kind of hands up emoji, that's it. Pat Kraft was left with no choice but to pull the trigger and to make the move. So, James Franklin, salute, my friend. I don't really feel bad for you because you're getting paid $50 million over the next X amount of years to not coach Penn State. But it was a good run. And certainly the program deserved a lot better this year. I don't know how it's going to shape. But cheers to Coach Franklin. Cheers to Drew Aller. Didn't want it to see it end like this, but this is the reality that we live in. So that's it. That's how we open the show today. James Franklin, no longer the head coach of Penn State after a 12-year run. All right, let's move on to the NFL because I think that's why a lot of you are watching. What we saw in the NFL yesterday, I'll do my recaps. It was not a very fluky day, right? I do the fluke report where I talk about teams that probably should have won based on the stats, right? There was actually no teams yesterday that won success rate and lost the game, which is very rare. There were a couple of teams this week that won yards per play but lost the game. The Eagles barely, and the Saints barely. Like they had slight edges, less than a yard in net yards per play, and lost the game. Obviously, turnovers were a big reason for the Eagles' loss. And that Patriots game, I think the Patriots. We'll get to them a little bit later in the show. I think the Patriots are legit, guys. I really do. Mike Vrabel. I think he's a much better coach than what Tennessee has right now, for sure. But again, New England won success rate. Giants won success rate. So while they lost yards per play, the Eagles won yards per play. Like I don't really think it was a fluky result. Giants were +2 turnover margin. And New England was +1 turnover margin. So that, slight yards per play edge for the losing teams kind of mitigated there by the fact that both of those teams that lost the game lost turnover margin. I think the weirdest result, the strangest scoreline of the week was definitely what took place in London. Anytime you see a game land 11, team with 11 points, again, you do the math. If you're scoring a touchdown and you have 11 points, that means you had 2 safeties. So that obviously didn't happen. So Denver gives up 3 field goals and a safety. They don't cover the game, but they absolutely dominate the New York Jets offense. How about this? 1.4 yards per play. That is what the Jets were able to gain yesterday. I wasn't feeling great yesterday. I had a little stomach bug yesterday morning. Ate some bad. I think I had some bad mushrooms on Friday night. But so I was in rough shape watching this game very early in the morning on Saturday, and I was at a loss for how poor the Jets played. I mean, they just have absolutely nothing on offense. Justin Fields is not it. 25% success rate, 9 sacks. What's the line from Ferris Bueller? 9 times. 9 times. That is how many sacks Justin Fields took on Sunday against to be fair, very good Broncos front. Nick Bonito right now, I think, is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. The Jets are a mess. They went 2 for 15 on third downs. They didn't reach the red zone once. They only committed 2 penalties. I guess that's a positive. But the Jets are just... they're the worst team in the league. Jason Cooper, thanks for chiming in, pal. I appreciate the comment here. If the Pats are legit, how about the Steelers and what they did to them last month? Everybody loves to dump on Pittsburgh, but that loss to Seattle, not so bad anymore. I agree, Jason. We'll get to Pittsburgh. We can get to Pittsburgh right now. I think Pittsburgh is... I mean, listen. Aaron Rodgers was a train wreck with the Jets. Now he's 4-1 with the Steelers. So maybe it wasn't Rodgers bad. Maybe it was Jets bad, culture bad, situation bad, voodoo Jets bad. Maybe Aaron Rodgers does have a little wiggle. Although when I watched that game, so I did bet the Steelers. I gave out Pittsburgh -3, -6 for the full game, -3 first half, -6 for the full game. Because the spot was horrific for Cleveland, right? Coming back from London, no bye, going back on the road against a team in the Steelers coming off a bye, horrific spot for Cleveland. And Dylan Gabriel making his first start stateside, 3.3 yards per play, 6 sacks, 0 for 3 in the red zone, couldn't score a touchdown in the red zone. Obviously, Cleveland's got a long way to go. But yeah, I think Pittsburgh is a legit team. And the way that AFC North is playing out, they might cakewalk to that division. And if there's a quarterback in January that I don't necessarily want to face, it's Aaron Rodgers. Now, he didn't look great yesterday. He was missing some throws. He is a 1-2-3 ball out kind of quarterback. He's not extending plays like he used to. He doesn't scare me a lot with the downfield throws, although with DK Metcalf, I think they are a little more explosive than at least the Jets were in the prior couple years. But I don't think this is peak Rodgers. I think the reason the Steelers are 4-1 is because they're a well-coached team that figures out a way to win games. The opposite, basically the anti-Jets. And that's why Pittsburgh, I think, is absolutely legit this year. Now, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't even think they're going to get to the Super Bowl because I think the Chiefs and the Bills are the best two teams in the AFC. Period. End of story. And we'll get to the Chiefs a little bit later in the show. But I do think Pittsburgh's a playoff team for sure, and they probably win that division. It's not the morning after Thursday Night Football, but you got to give the Giants a shout out. Flawless performance against the Eagles. Again, got outgained yards per play, but +2 turnover margin, 3 for 3 in the red zone, 11 for 15 on third downs. Probably not sustainable, but Jackson Dart is a weapon with his legs, and they are going to be a team that you're going to have to deal with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. They are a force. They're a physical force. Dart's going to have these highs and these lows because he's a very volatile quarterback, and he's going to make some throws. You're going to be like, ah! And he's going to make some plays. You're going to be like, whoa, that was an amazing play. I think you're just going to have to ride that Jackson Dart roller coaster if you're a Giants fan, but they are significantly better with him than they were with Russell Wilson. Again, ceiling significantly higher, floor probably lower. Maybe not, though, with Russ. But I do think the lows for Jackson Dart can be really low because I think he is just – like, he's going headfirst into defenders. Like, he almost got called for a targeting penalty. That's not something a quarterback should be doing. So I do think you're going to have some oh crap moments. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he, injures himself. But he's legit. He has an energy to him that I think the team responds to. Like you saw when he went to the sidelines because of the injury, he went into the tent and you saw Dable just freak out. Had like a hissy fit on the sidelines with the trainer because they had to put Russ in the game. I tweeted out, the last thing a Giants fan wants to see is Russell Wilson warming up to go into the football game. I mean, that's just the worst right now. I mean, he like the vibes of between him and Jackson Dart are just polar opposites right now. Vinay, over under 3.5 Scatterbo seasons. I mean, the average season for a running back is 3 years. So I would lean to the under. But let's be honest, he also has an element of just weirdness to him, that the energy, people respond to it. People love it. Like there's the video of him, I forget which game at Arizona State, where he's just like banging his head into a brick wall. Like he's crazy. I think those are the kind of football players that the fans love. And New York especially needs that energy compared to the Jets, where it's just like wet noodle. The Giants have a little life to them. And I think Brian Dable, who I thought was kind of on the outs, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, they're going to save Brian Dable's job and Joe Shane's job, at least this year. I think I think Mara is probably pretty happy at the energy those two guys provide. A little juice to the Giants this year. Nice win for them on Thursday night over the Eagles. The Colts keep rolling. Not the prettiest of performances. It was a Jacoby Brissett revenge game, right? Former Colt coming back into town and playing really well. but the Colts get the job done. They won the box score. They were perfect in the red zone. And Indy's a legit team. Listen, I think when you look at this Colts team and you think to yourself, let's take a look at these AFC South standings. I mean, Indy is got a game lead over Jacksonville, and Houston looks like they're kind of in the dumps. Although, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston still won that division. They don't play the Colts until later in the year. We'll see if Daniel Jones can keep it up. I actually think that might be a bet I would be willing to make right now. Let's see. I'm gonna go to BetMGM right now, and I'm gonna see. Appreciate you, Jason. I'm gonna watch the show later, man. I appreciate you, bud. I'm gonna see what the vibe is right now. Hold on, you got to give me a second here. I'm doing it all on the fly here. I should have had these odds pulled up. But this is also the reason that I like doing a show like this, is because I'm going to just think of things on the fly and we're just going to talk. Like, this is not going to be a show where I'm going to have everything structured and everything, run down. I don't want the show to be like that. I want this to be free flowing. I want this to be the morning after, where we sip our coffee, go through what happened in sports yesterday, and see if we can have some fun. Texans are 6-1 right now. 6-1 to win the AFC South. I would consider that, to be perfectly honest with you. I really would. Maybe, like, the Colts didn't look great yesterday. I mean, they didn't look dominant. They gave up 5.7 yards per play to Jacoby Brissett. They turned it over once. They were really good in the red zone, but that's not always sustainable, 4 for 4 in the red zone. And Arizona was in dire straits. So it wasn't a dominant performance by Indy yesterday. It didn't even come close to covering the spread. So I would not be surprised if we do get some of that Daniel Jones regression, if we do get some of that defensive regression, especially in the secondary. The Colts secondary has not played well. Again, you're giving up over 300 yards to Jacoby Brissett. So, yeah, Texans 6-1 to win the AFC South. I think that's a bet I would consider making. In fact, maybe you'll find that in not Morning Glory, because we can't really give any glory to the Texans, who didn't play yesterday. They had their bye week. Maybe next week. Although, just bet it. I'm just telling you to bet it right now. Go bet Texans 6-1 to win the AFC South. I think that's a decent bet right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Who do the Texans have this week? Let's see. Who does Houston have this week? The Houston Texans play at the Seattle Seahawks. Tough game. Monday night. Tough game. Then they play the Niners, the Broncos, then the Jags, Titans, Bills, Colts, Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers, Colts. Whew, it's a tough schedule. That's a tough schedule, I'm not going to lie. I'm assuming that they're a pretty big dog on Monday night next week. Only a 3-point dog. How about that? How about that weird, fishy line next week? A week from tonight, Houston at Seattle. You usually get 2 points for being at home, maybe even 2.5. Seattle's a tough place to play. Night game, Monday night. Only a 3-point favorite next week. The Seattle Seahawks. Tight number. Coming off their big win over the Jags. Let's talk about that game. That was one of my winners that I gave out, not only on the BetUS show, but also on my Circa contest, my Splash contest. I had Seattle as a pick'em. Dominated that game against the Jags. Dominated yards per play. Sacked Trevor Lawrence 7 times. Did not allow Jacksonville to reach the red zone. Mike McDonald's defense is humming right now. Here's the problem. Slinging Sam Darnold didn't play well yesterday. Jackson Smith and Jigba's a stud, but they went 1 for 12 on third downs and 1 for 3 in the red zone. I still think Seattle's beatable. I do. You saw what Baker Mayfield did with a very depleted lineup. It was a bad spot for Jacksonville off the Chiefs win, short week. Good spot for Seattle. I thought that was the biggest reason why I like the Seahawks this week, but by no means is Seattle unbeatable. And Houston, off the bye, getting healthy. Maybe they get Mixon back. Interesting spot. this week, this Monday night, with Houston at Seattle on a Monday night. Um, Other games that were worth noting Sunday in the NFL: Chargers come back from a late deficit to beat the Dolphins. They won yards per play. They won the box score. They won turnovers. Um, Justin Herbert was terrible in the red zone. They were kicking a bunch of field goals, but you do credit the Chargers. Down late, Herbert was able to march them down the field, made a really nice play to Ladd McConkey, which set up the game-winning field goal. And the Chargers get a big win. I think they are good, not great. I still think the Chiefs win the AFC West. Sorry, I do. Bucks, nice win over the Niners. Baker Mayfield's an MVP candidate, guys. We told you last week on the show. He was our morning glory last week. I bet him at 14-1 last week to win MVP. That number is significantly reduced now. Unfortunately, Emeka Egbuka got hurt, which means our rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year bet might be dead on him. But Egbuka, Evans, Godwin, I mean, everyone's hurt for the Bucks, and Mayfield still keeps putting up big numbers. Tampa Bay won the turnover margin. They sacked Mac Jones 6 times. They gained 7 yards per play. Unfortunate for the Niners with Fred Warner. I think our Niners over 10 wins bet might be in jeopardy without Warner. He's the heart and soul of that defense. But you credit Baker Mayfield. Dude is an absolute stud. He has really become the mentor, the father figure on this Bucks team. And he's making plays, man. Like, he's just making freaking plays. You win 13 or 14 games in the NFL and you play quarterback, you're probably going to win MVP, or you're going to be in the conversation to win MVP. And right now the Bucks are right there. They're 4-1 or 5. Actually, I think they're 5-1. The Bucks are 5-1. MVP candidate right now, Baker Mayfield. I think I would put him and Mahomes on the same rung. I think Josh Allen's right there too, but I don't know, something about Baker's play right now. Baker looks like he's doing more with less. Mahomes, I think, is obviously the GOAT, and they haven't won as many games, but what he's doing is remarkable. I think what Baker's doing, 5 wins with all the injuries they've had, incredible. Incredible year for Baker Mayfield. Deserves to be in the MVP discussion. Nice win for Carolina at home as a dog over Dallas. They won the box score, lost the turnover margin. No sacks on Dak, but they did a good job late slamming the door shut. I mean, they had a 60% success rate on offense. Rico Dowdle went crazy in a revenge game. Good for Carolina. Carolina's a very different team at home than they are on the road. For example, this week, they are on the road at the Jets, and they're a dog on the road. After beating so this is the transitive property of football, right? Jets get waxed at home by Dallas. The next week, Dallas loses to Carolina. The next week, this week, Carolina's a dog at the Jets. Make it make sense. I would be very hesitant. They're going to be a very popular underdog this week. Who knows if it closes the dog? It's only a 1.5 point spread right now at BetMGM. But Carolina, very different team on the road than they are at home. We'll see how they handle the road environment. Although the Jets, tough spot. Coming back from London, no bye. At least they don't have to go on the road, but I wouldn't bet the Jets right now with your money. But that's going to be the sharp contrarian play this week, is the Jets as a short favorite at home against Carolina, who's coming off a nice win over the Cowboys. Vinay wants to know, completely out on the Ravens. I think you give him the benefit of the Lamar Jackson doubt that he's not 100%. They got waxed by the Rams yesterday, although the Rams didn't play that well. They gained less than 5 yards per play. They turned it over 2 for 5 in the red zone. But Baltimore was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. I don't know what to say right now, Vinay. I think the Ravens are a bad football team. They go into their bye week at 1-5. Their win total heading into the year was 11.5. They have to run the table to get to 12 wins and to go over their win total. Obviously, it's not going to happen. They're going to stay under. But let's check Baltimore's schedule right now. The Ravens have lost 4 in a row since the win over the Browns. So here's the bull case for Baltimore. And this is why I love gambling. because sometimes you get opportunities. Right now, the narrative is the Ravens stink. They can't win a game. Blah, 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 blah. I get it. Their live win total right now is 8.5, which means they have to go 9-8. They can lose 3 more games and still go over that live win total. Here are their next, or just their, I'll give you the rest of their schedule. Home against Chicago, right? This is post-bye, so they're on the bye this week. Home against Chicago. At the Dolphins. At the Vikings. At the Browns. Versus the Jets. Versus the Bengals. Then they play Steelers, Bengals, Pats, at Packers, Steelers to close the season. I would bet over 8.5 wins on the Ravens. I would. I honestly would. I think they can go 8-3 down the stretch. You get healthy off the bye. You come back. You beat Chicago at home. You beat Miami. Tough game at Minnesota. But you can win that game. We'll see who's playing quarterback for the Vikings. I think it'll be week 10-ish. Week 9. I don't know. Then Cleveland, Jets, Bengals. I mean, there's no reason you can't go 5-1 over the next 6 games. And then all of a sudden, 1-5 turns into 6-6. And it's anyone's ball game, right? Then you can make the playoffs. Maybe you go 11-6. Maybe you go 10-7. You're probably in the playoffs in the AFC at that stretch. You have to be willing to bet on bad teams, or I guess let me rephrase that. The best way to make money in the NFL is to bet on good teams who just happen to be playing badly. And you not necessarily time the market, but look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is we are 6 games into a 17-game season, and we have seen the worst of the Baltimore Ravens in that 6 games. I am willing to bet that we don't see the worst of them going forward. I'm willing to bet that we see a little bit of improvement with the Ravens down the stretch. Over 8.5 wins for the Baltimore Ravens live right now on BetMGM. I think that's a bet I'd be willing to make. Tennessee Titans. Hey, guess what? You won the flukiest football game maybe of all time. And then what do you do the next week? You fall flat on your face against the Las Vegas Raiders, who look like a hapless Raiders team the week prior against the Colts. I don't want to say the Raiders dominated that game, but they held Tennessee to 3.8 yards per play. They forced 3 turnovers, and they sacked Cam Ward 6 times. The Raiders look like a desperate football team that needed a win, and they got one. I'm not very high on Vegas going forward. I think Gino needs to pull his head out of his tuchus. I think he made a weird comment after the game that he's going to go take a bath in a lake because he's really having bad luck right now. I don't know. I get it. Trust me. I'm a Jets fan and a Penn State fan. I understand bad luck. But Vegas right now is just one of those teams that I think is going to beat the teams that they should beat and lose to the teams that they should lose to. Like, I don't see the Raiders managing up very well this year. They should beat the Titans at home with a rookie quarterback coming off of like the flukiest win ever. You should win that game. They were favored to win that game by more than a field goal, and they did. Credit to them. They covered the spread, but I'm not going to throw any flowers at Pete Carroll because you beat the Titans at home. Cincinnati at Green Bay. I fell for the cheese with the Packers laying a big number coming off the bye against Joe Flacco. Although, to be fair, 4th and 5, up 14. Flacco throws a dime to Jamar Chase to get within the number. Probably should have pushed, right? Like, I think if you run that game back 100 times, 1,000 times, I think Green Bay probably covers more than they don't, or they push, or at least they, finish that play, right? If you run 4th and 5 in the red zone, 1,000 simulations, I think more than not, Green Bay makes the play to get off the field and finish that game off and win by 14, and I'll get my money back. But they dominated that game. They were plus 2.5 net yards per play. They turned it over in the red zone. I think that's the reason why they didn't cover. And you credit the Bengals. I mean, listen, Joe Flacco comes back from London with Cleveland, goes on the road, gets traded, goes on the road to Green Bay. They go 2 for 2 in the red zone with a 51% success rate. I mean, what else could you ask for Joe Flacco? The dude's going to be playing football until he's 50, maybe. I guess you just have to give Joe his credit in what was an unwinnable situation for him New team, new everything, new playbook. And you go into Green Bay and you cover the spread. You throw a couple of touchdowns in the red zone and you figure out a way to get within the number. But I think Green Bay winning that game. Congratulations to everyone who advanced in Survivor yesterday, picking the Packers. All right, let's close with the Patriots here before we get to the next segment. Actually, sorry, 2 games left on the schedule. Patriots over the Saints. I thought that was a impressive performance from Drake May. That's all I'm going to say, because I have more on Drake May in a little bit. But the one bugaboo with New England right now, they are they are starting to embody the character. Excuse me. Oh, little indigestion here. They are starting to embody the character of their head coach. Mike Vrabel is a fiery guy. They make a few too many mistakes, 11 penalties. Didn't do much in the red zone. Only made 1 trip to the red zone. They were very explosive yesterday, but it was very boom or bust. That's what Drake May is. Heart attack every drop back. It's either a sack or it's a touchdown. He's playing at a high level, but he needs to just make the layups now, right? Like, I think that's what I'm seeing with the Patriots, that's going to be what separates them from that's going to be what elevates them from good to great. We know the ceiling, but can you raise the floor? That, I think, is the key with Drake May. We've seen it now 2 weeks in a row. Nice performances, good wins against Buffalo on the road. You follow up the letdown spot after the big win at Buffalo, and you go into New Orleans and you get a win. And I know New Orleans stinks, but that's no easy place to play. So I'm impressed. They covered the spread. They were another one of my circa picks yesterday, but I want to see that floor get raised a little bit. I don't want to see the disaster plays. I don't want to see the sacks and the penalties and the mistakes. I think if you clean that stuff up, and that's always been Vrabel's MO, is very tough, very gritty. They win games, but they make a lot of mistakes. Like, they're a little bit loosey-goosey sometimes. So you clean those things up, and I think New England is a legit playoff contender. The game last night, the last game we saw, Sunday night, oh, man. I have thoughts about this game. Chiefs win. They win the box score. They played well enough to win. Was it a clean performance? No. Mahomes took some sacks. They were average on third downs. I thought they left a few points out there. Bucker missed a field goal, right? Like, they missed an extra point. Like, there were some mistakes that were made, but the narrative on this Chiefs team just boggles my mind. All I saw on social media after the game was, they're cheating. The refs. My friend Nick Costos does great work for BetMGM Network. I do some work for them as well. He coined this phrase, Chiefs derangement syndrome. It is a real thing. People are going to look at the box score last night and say, how the heck did the Chiefs commit 0 penalties? I'll tell you how. Because they didn't commit any penalties. Maybe the refs missed a few penalties. The refs miss a lot. I don't know if you watch these games every week, but the refs miss stuff all the time. Oh, but that catch by Travis Kelce wasn't a catch. Yeah, it was a missed call. And the Chiefs hurried up to the line because they knew it was a missed call, and they ran a play. Meanwhile, Dan Campbell's sitting there with his thumb up his ass. He could have challenged it. Refs miss calls all the time. But if they miss a call in a Chiefs game, well, then they're cheating. It's rigged. Did you watch the game last Monday night where flag after flag after flag were being thrown against the Chiefs in key moments? Pass interference in the end zone, holding on the kickoff that would have put the Chiefs at the 35, and they probably kick a field goal to tie the game, send it to overtime. Crucial penalties that were also called as such. We need to get away from the mindset that every time the Chiefs catch a break, it's cheating. Teams catch breaks in the NFL all the time. But Chiefs derangement syndrome is a real thing. This psychological phenomenon that every time something good happens for Kansas City, it's rigged. And every time something bad happens against Kansas City, they deserve it because of all the other times that it was rigged. It's remarkable how my mentions looked when I said the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They are still the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. Is he the most talented quarterback in the league? Yeah, he's up there. The reason why Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league is because of this. And for the radio audience, it's because I'm pointing between my ears, the brain. He puts his team in the best position to win. He goes to the line of scrimmage. He sees everything. He is the most prepared quarterback. He elevates the talent around him. That is what the greats do. I have never seen a quarterback elevate his team the way Patrick Mahomes does every single week. Their offensive line is improved. Their defense, their secondary is really good. The Chiefs are a legit Super Bowl contender. Like it or not. You can either make money off of it or you can be mad about it. But this derangement of every time something good happens for them, it's rigged, is the most absurd mindset ever. You are not watching football. You are living in your head. I don't know if you hate Taylor Swift. I don't know what it is, to be perfectly honest with you. But we need to get out of the mindset of Chiefs derangement syndrome. Wake up and smell the roses. Kansas City's legit. They handled a good Detroit team last night. Completely handled them. They sacked Jared Goff. They got in the face of that Lions run game. They shut down Detroit in the second half. Spags is as good as it gets defensively. And that secondary is really good. I still think the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. It's October 13th. I still think it's Kansas City and everyone else in the AFC. I think Buffalo's right there, but let's be honest. If it's Buffalo at Kansas City, or more likely Kansas City at Buffalo in the AFC Championship game in late January, you're going to look me in the eyes and tell me you're going to bet the Bills? I sure as hell ain't. No way. No way. Give me the Chiefs. They're going to win the Super Bowl. All right. Before we get to Rise and Wine and Morning Glory, I want to give you my college football playoff predictions for what I think is a really unique college football playoff run this year. So I'll switch to the screen share here. Hold on. Got to let me run the board. We're running the board. Here we go. That's what we want. You got to give me a minute. Listen, I'm running the board. You got to give me a minute here to figure all this out. All right, here we go. So college football playoff predictions. I'll zoom in so you guys can actually see this. There we go. Zoom in a little more, maybe. There we go. All right. I post these every week. I'll post it after the show. I actually haven't tweeted them out yet. You see, I have them all here. Like I update them every week. I guess those numbers got weird. That's supposed to be number one, obviously. You know how. So I do this every week. I write a little blurb every week. I got to write my blurb. I haven't wrote my blurb yet. But this is where I'm at. College football playoff predictions after week 7. I have Ohio State as my number one team. I think Ohio State is the best team in college football. They have the best defense in college football. I don't really think it matters if Julian Sayin is the best quarterback in college football because Will Howard won a national championship with this team last year. So, unfortunately, people are going to hate it because they want parity and they want new, fresh blood. But Ohio State's the best, guys. You just got to deal with it, right? You can either be mad about it or you can make money from it. So, again, this is not my poll. This is not my AP poll. This is how I think the college football playoff field will shake out. So it's my top 12 teams in the CFP. I have Miami number 2 as my ACC champion. Now, if Miami drops a game at any point, I still think they're going to be the ACC champs. But at that point, I probably would put Bama in front of them. I think Bama's going to lose at least one more game this year. I do. It's a tough road. It really is. I actually, no, I'll rephrase that. I think Bama will lose one more time this year. I don't know when, but I think Bama will lose one more game this year. And I still think they go to the SEC championship game. I think they will win the SEC championship game. I think they'll be a top 4 seed in the college football playoff. I think Ty Simpson is your Heisman Trophy winner. You heard it here first. I bet it at 17-1 a couple weeks ago. It was during the Georgia game. I got it at 17-1. He's the best quarterback in college football. He is QB1, especially from the neck up. Indiana, man, what a win for them at Oregon. Really impressive. You got to obviously drop Oregon. I dropped them to 8th in the rankings this week. The rest of it's pretty much all SEC. People are going to hate that. Georgia, A&M, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Those are the 4 SEC at-large teams that I have right now. I do not think – so last year – so here's where things will get muddy, right? Last year, the Big Ten had 4 at-large teams. That ain't going to happen this year. Ain't going to happen this year. This year, the Big Ten will get 2. Indiana and Oregon. USC, Washington, like these teams are kind of in the mix. Michigan just lost a tough one. I think they're out. I just don't see a third at-large in the Big Ten. I don't. I think it's Indiana, and I think it's Oregon, and I think that's it. I think the rest of the at-large is going to go to the SEC. Georgia Tech deserves all your attention. Look at Georgia Tech's schedule. I'll pull this up right now. Look at this. Georgia Tech's schedule is absolute cake the rest of the year. It is a cakewalk. So they smoked Virginia Tech this week. Duke, Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, and they finished with Georgia. Probably going to lose that game to Georgia, although it is in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, so it's not on the road between the hedges. They almost beat Georgia last year, too. Georgia Tech's legit, man. Brent Key is a hell of a coach. Faulkner is Buster Faulkner, OC. Paid him a boatload of money this year. And Haynes King is just a warrior, man. He's not going to be an NFL quarterback, but he is a great college quarterback. Georgia Tech deserves your attention. I think Georgia Tech is going to be a college football playoff team this year. We're going to have no choice. They're going to be 11-1. They're going to be 11-1. And you're not going to penalize a team like we have the precedent here for this, right? SMU last year, 11-1 going into, right? Georgia Tech lost that game early. In this case, SMU lost that game early to BYU, and then they ran the table. In this case, Georgia Tech will lose to Georgia probably, and then lose to Miami in the ACC championship game. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Georgia Tech wins that game. But let's say they lose it. I guess maybe losing 2 consecutive games is kind of a black eye, but we have the precedent of an ACC team losing twice, but the second one being an ACC championship game, right? Clemson beat SMU last year in the ACC title. They still put SMU in. So I think Georgia Tech, even if they lose to Miami in a hypothetical ACC championship game, I still think Miami will obviously get in, and Georgia Tech gets in too. Texas Tech, I've had them as my Big 12 champion now, I think, for 4 consecutive weeks. I started them after week 4. So 4 consecutive weeks I've had Texas Tech winning the Big 12. They're odds on to win the Big 12. They're the best team in the Big 12. The Big 12 is a dumpster fire this year. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day in the Big 12. Honestly, it is an absolute dumpster fire. But Texas Tech is the best team in that conference. And I'll be honest, I've got my hands up emoji with the group of 5. I had UNLV. You're not going to believe me, but you scroll back all the way down to my first college football playoff prediction. Here you go, August 22nd. My first college football playoff prediction, I had UNLV as the G5. I guess I got to keep them in, right? Are they the best G5? No, they're not. They're absolutely not. Memphis probably is. Then it's probably South Florida. But those teams keep beating each other, right? Memphis has to play South Florida, I think, in 2 weeks. You know, what if South Florida wins and then, Memphis loses another game later? Like, I think because of the parity in other leagues, UNLV, who keeps winning ugly games, I mean, they needed every second the other day to get past Air Force, but they keep winning. If they go 12-0 and they got a tough game this week, we'll find out how good they are this week. They go to Boise this week. This might be the week where the UNLV train gets derailed. And if that's the case, then I will remove them from the rankings. But they keep winning freaking games, man. And if they keep winning games, I got to keep him in my college football playoff pool. Most likely they will lose. Actually, let's check what the line is in that game. Let's check what the line is in that game. That actually might be a reason to remove them. Is they might be a big dog. Yeah, they're a double-digit dog this week. If they win this week, they're in the college football playoff. I'll say it. If they win this week, they're going to make it to the college football playoff. But it does seem like, at least the market's telling us, that this is going to be the week that UNLV finally gets dethroned. If that's the case, then we probably put Memphis in this spot. Oh, man. I appreciate all the people in the chat. Brian Dowdy, B. Diddy, great content. Agree about Ohio State, dominant D. Man, Ohio State's so freaking good, guys. People are going to be so mad with Ohio State making the college football playoff and being the number one team again. Or not again, but, being the best team in the country, right? The number one team. They're probably going to be the number one team in the field this year. Ohio State's so freaking good. Gavin Hensley says he bet a half unit on the Ravens. I'm guessing that's to win the Super Bowl, Gavin, at plus 2350. I'll be honest, I don't hate it. I don't think anyone is beating the Chiefs this year, though, in the AFC. I'm sorry. I think the Chiefs are winning it all. But I would absolutely bet the Ravens over 8.5 wins. I would definitely make that bet. All right. Great show, guys. Really fun show. Let's wrap things up as we always do with the two segments that I love to hate. Well, one of them I love to hate. Hold on, let me get my windows back in order here. I got to figure out a way to seamlessly go to the screen share. It's a little hard because I don't want to get into the weeds with you guys, but the streaming software I use sometimes makes it harder for me. But Rise and Wine, right? We did this last week on the show. This is a segment where I get to vent about something I hated in sports over the weekend. And it's not always going to be one of my teams, but this week it is again. And it's Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets. The New York Jets are the worst coach team in the NFL. They are 0-6. They are the only winless team in the NFL. They are the only team that has no rudder, no hope, no fire. I thought Aaron Glenn was going to come in and renovate the culture. In reality, he has wrecked it. There is absolutely no plan on offense. The last possession of the first half in London yesterday was one of the worst possessions I've ever watched in NFL history, where the Jets just tiddlywinked their way down the field with the hope of not giving the ball back to Denver. They could have won that game yesterday. I thought their defense played well enough to win it. They held a good Broncos offense, or at least a exciting Broncos offense with a good coach and an up-and-coming quarterback and a good running game and a good offensive line to 13 points. When you hold an offense to 13 points in a football game, you should win. But the New York Jets are not one of those teams. Aaron Glenn, remember when we thought the Lions losing both their coordinators were going to make them a worse team this year? You can make the case that Ben Johnson makes the Lions worse, leaving and going to Chicago. But there was a legit groundswell of opinion that Aaron Glenn leaving the Lions was going to put that defense in a tumult. That's funny. I don't know where the Jets go from here. I do know it's not Aaron Glenn. He is not the answer. Justin Fields is not the answer at quarterback. Aaron Glenn was the one that decided to make that move. Remember the whole Aaron Rodgers drama where they fly him over across the country just to tell him that he's getting cut? That was Aaron Glenn and Daryl Moogie, the GM's decision to do that. Clearly, that was not the right decision. Clearly, the right decision would have been to keep Aaron and to build around him and to try to turn around what was a ship that was not on the right path, but still had some good pieces around it. Hindsight's always 2020. At the time, was I okay with the Jets starting from scratch and getting rid of Rodgers and bringing in Fields? Sure. But look at what the Steelers have done with Aaron Rodgers compared to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Decision-making is the only power a coach has in the NFL. Coaches coach, players play. The only power a coach has in the NFL or at any level is to put his team in the right position to win. Aaron Glenn is not that guy. Aaron Glenn does not have that ability. It's his first job. Maybe you want to give him the benefit of the doubt for 1 year. He's still in his honeymoon phase, clearly, based off of the way that he's going about his business. It looks like the participation trophy every week is the only thing the Jets are really going for. But Aaron Glenn is the worst coach in the NFL right now. Will he be the first coach fired? No. Probably going to be McDaniel or Brian Callahan, because those guys have been around longer and they're not in that honeymoon phase with a new GM. But Aaron Glenn is the worst coach in the NFL. And he showed it on Sunday with how he executed a completely lackluster game plan, and the execution was even worse. So that's Rise and Wine. 2 consecutive weeks here on the show. Rise and Wine is my own team. Last week it was Penn State. I couldn't do Penn State back-to-back weeks. I mean, James Franklin's been through enough. And this week it's Aaron Glenn and the Jets. All right, we finished the show on a high note. Morning Glory. This week's Morning Glory, Drake May. Man, I'll tell you what. Drake May is putting together a MVP runner-up campaign. Is he going to be the MVP this year? No, he's not. Because there's just too many great quarterbacks in front of him, and he is still up and coming. But what Drake May is showing me is the ability to make the wow plays. And I think that is the first step to being a successful quarterback in the NFL. Show me your ceiling. His ADOT yesterday was almost 11 yards. He was chucking and ducking. He ran for 32 yards. He had one of the highest EPA numbers of the week. In an obvious letdown spot, he went on the road and was throwing it all over the yard down there in New Orleans. The next step of Drake May's evolution is going to be to clean up the negative plays and to be more of a well-rounded, polished quarterback. My nickname for Drake May, a heart attack every drop back. Sometimes heart attacks are exciting, I guess, in the not in the health connotation, but in the watching football connotation. You're like, whoa! That's Drake May every drop back. Sometimes it's a good whoa. Sometimes it's a no, because he takes a lot of sacks, and he does make some negative plays. But Drake May, right now, 16-1 to win the MVP. I wouldn't make that bet. But he is going to be a guy that is going to be in MVP consideration next year and in many years to come. I'll make the prediction right now, October 13th, the year of our Lord 2025. At some point in Drake May's career, he's going to win an MVP. It's not going to be this year, but at some point, Drake May is going to win an MVP. And for the love of God, Bill Belichick and UNC, will you show this kid some love? We talked about that on last week's show. The most absurd thing about the whole Drake May success story is that his alma mater will not give him 1 ounce of love because he just happens to play for the Patriots, which is the Montagues and the Capulets right now is Bill Belichick and UNC against the Patriots. It's the most stupid story ever. I didn't check UNC's feeds this morning, but I'm guessing they didn't show Drake May any love for a second consecutive week, despite the fact that this dude is playing quarterback at one of the highest levels of any QB in the NFL right now. So, Drake May, clap it up. Morning Glory here on the morning after. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. It's been a blast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm begging you, subscribe to the YouTube channel. that is how we grow. That is how we continue this fun journey we are on, trying to renovate this brand, trying to recalibrate this show into something that is going to be a staple, hopefully, not only weekly, but maybe daily. We'll see. Got some things in the works. Maybe we'll figure out a deal where we can go the morning after every day, or at least weekdays. But for now, we'll be back next Monday with episode 3 of the morning after as we continue to push forward with the college football and NFL season. But until then,